First and foremost, thank you to everyone for joining us today. I'd like to start out by thanking our amazing speakers and panelists for taking the time to be a part of this conversation, along with Auburn Avenue Library and our sponsors, KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. We have Harlequin, Enneagram, Spark, the Atlanta Writers Club, Libro FM, Constellations, which is where we are right now, and I'm super excited. So for anyone that's looking to support our efforts to amplify our stories, make sure to follow the festival on social media at Black Writers Weekend and tag us on your post using the hashtag Black Writers Weekend. Now, I'm super excited for this conversation. Right in front of me, I have the most amazing woman that I know. We've been trying to connect for a long time. So when this opportunity randomly popped up, it just made perfect sense. But for those who don't know who's in front of me, we have Chelsea Sarae Addison. She is a fun-loving educator and author of Savannah's Saving Jar, which we're going to talk about today. Her story introduces elementary students to important financial terms like saving, entrepreneurship, and return on investment. But it doesn't stop at kids. So I'm super excited to dive into this conversation. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you. I'm super excited. I'm like cheesing from ear to ear right now. Y'all can't see me, but yes.
I'm
super excited for this conversation as well.
Yeah, no, we've been trying to connect for a while, and it's crazy that it lined up this way. Because I didn't even know you were going to be at Black Writers Weekend until on social media, and then we randomly saw the email.
Exactly. Like in that moment, I texted her and was like, so I guess this is how it's going to be happening because... And it's great because everything that we're probably going to talk about today is things that were going to happen in that conversation anyway.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm happy that it's here. I'm happy that this conversation is being recorded.
Yes,
that part though.
It's staple. It's in history. We got it.
That part.
So how does it feel to be at Black Writers Weekend? Like when you got the invitation, what was that feeling like?
It feels amazing. And actually, I need to plug my sister because my sister is the one that put me on to this. So Black Writers reached out to her and was like, "Hey, we want you to come," and she was like, "I'm actually doing another event, but my sister is a writer.
Come on.
She's in publishing. She does filmmaking, all these things. So that's who needs to be at your event this weekend." So, yeah. And fast forward to now, I feel like I can't believe it's already here.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to not only talk about my book, but also learn from all the people who are going to be here, the panelists and the speakers. Obviously, this conversation, it's already been amazing just like watching the camaraderie among Black folks.
Oh my gosh.
And we spoke a little bit about this offline, but yeah, I mean, people are really pulling together, talking about new ideas. We're already in this space of an amazing idea coming to fruition, and now people are already like, what's the next thing we can do? How can we join together and do something else? It's like, yes, more of this, more of that.
Yeah, and like I know, like you said, we talked offline, like being able to see that transition of not feeling like I have to constrict myself or hold myself. Like I can let you know, like, hey, I want to work with you without feeling like, oh, you're trying to take advantage of me or you're wanting to use me. It's like, no, using somebody, it's a better term to say it's collaborating or working together to be able to move forward. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's dive into it. In all my conversations, I like to ask, especially the times that we're in, like, how are you as a person outside of being an author and all the amazing things you do? How are you?
I'm doing really well right now. But yeah, it's definitely like... How are you doing? I don't know. Because I'm also an entrepreneur, so I'm definitely on the roller coaster of entrepreneurship.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a choice, so that part of it makes me feel a lot better about the decision. But I'm excited to be able to be doing what I love. I feel like God's hand is constantly in my life. And so whenever I have those moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments of worry, anxiety, I lean on to scripture. I lean on to, like I said, prayer, God, to help guide me in those moments of despair because they come. That is what it is. That is life.
Absolutely.
And then also, like, I have a really strong foundation of family and friends. And so, like I was telling you offline, like, I haven't had my therapist in, like, a semester. So I'm, like, freaking out. I'm like, what do I do? I have to talk to the people, man. So, other than that, it's been really good. I've been... working on new books for this series.
Ooh.
So, and it's literally been since 2018 that I've been trying to work these books out. And Epiphany came, and I was like, I'm ready. And so I turned out one book like a few weeks ago, and I'm already on the third. So
okay. We'll definitely get into that. We'll get to that. So let's take it back, right? So I like to start from the beginning of time because there are people, this is probably their first time hearing about you. And I think we're in a time, not even I think, I know we're in a time where people like products, people like services, but they also like to know who's behind that. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up here in Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm from ATL.
Okay. Look, excuse me. Can I say that? Can I say
exactly.
that? Yes, you can. So you grew up in Atlanta. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were raised? Like, paint the picture for us.
Oh, paint the picture. So from my perspective, because I think that's very important to state, like my parents, my sister will all have different perspectives. From my perspective, I grew up in Black excellence. I grew up around doctors and lawyers and celebrities. I grew up going to a lot of PWI or predominantly white schools, but I also grew up in diverse spaces as well when it came to my education. I grew up around a very loving family on both sides. My family poured into myself and my sister. I was very energetic. I had a lot of energy. My
Still
mom
do.
used to, definitely have a lot of energy. My mom used to tell me to like go outside and run around the house, and she'd be like, "Run, Chelsea, run!" I just be like running around the house. I was very creative. I would paint. I was in a lot of different activities. Constantly, I played gymnastics. I was doing flag football. I was running track. T-ball, anything you could think of. Like
Active.
I was just like, I was very active. Anything, violin. I was doing all kinds of stuff constantly. Like and what I love about my upbringing is that my parents never were like no. They never said no to any of the ideas that I had, any of the interests that I had. It was always okay. Well, let's put her in it and see what happens. And I was always the type of person that forget beginner's luck. Like I just immediately could. Well, you put me into it, and I'm moving up the ladder very, very quickly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I was very loved. My parents did get divorced, so that did have a traumatic effect on me. But other than that, like I can't really complain about my upbringing. I'm sure there are like things if we dug deep, that we could pull out. But for the most part, I was loved.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you brought up something that is so amazing. So many times, like you don't see kids being able to just explore, like try different things. Like parents, like let's try it. Like get into these different things. How do you think that has shaped you as like the person that you are today? Because I know you're an entrepreneur now.
Yeah.
So do you think like that's kind of where it stemmed from, where you're not afraid to just step into it?
Absolutely. Actually, I was listening to a TED Talk yesterday about multi-potentialites. And I've always had this interesting journey with, like I said, because I've always been interested in everything, and everyone around me was like, go do it. Even my extended family, they were like, well, yeah, we've done that before. You should do it. That'll be fun. Everyone was very supportive of all the things that I wanted to do. But as I got older, there were people who questioned, why are you doing so many different things? You need to choose one thing. What do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I do a lot of different things. I mean, why can't I just do them all? I'm doing them all right now. And then at one point, I was like, well, we have like 5 subjects in school, and no one's telling me to like go to one of those classes.
Wow,
so
that's a good analogy.
Why am I having to now like
minimize
into one of them? Yeah, I was like, and that's just not who I am. And at one point, I just stopped trying to convince people, stopped trying to explain it, because it was very difficult for folks who actually had that for themselves. You know what I mean? Like there are people who really have one thing, and kudos to you. I am supportive of that. They specialize. We need specialists. That is not me. And knowing that about myself and having the track record and the things to go back on and just say and remember, like, well, I've never been that person.
Right.
So it's okay for me to not be that person right now. Absolutely. And what does it mean to try and do that to myself? It means that I'm no longer expressing myself in who I actually am. And so I always make sure that I'm leaning into whatever my interests are. It's funny, my grandfather, when I was younger, wrote a children's book for me. Girl, I can't even find it. It's ridiculous. But anyway, but in the book, I remember that it was about me going down different rabbit holes. And I always took that with me as I grew up. I was like, man, look at me going down a rabbit hole already, going down the next rabbit hole. I just keep going down rabbit holes. But yeah, it makes me very confident in who I am, what I am, and understanding that this is authentically me.
Right.
Authentically me means possibly doing 5 things at a time, and actually that version of me will be operating better than that version of me that's doing 1.
Absolutely.
And whenever I feel off kiltered, I'm like, how many things am I doing? I probably need to tap into like literally picked up violin randomly because I was like, I need to get back to my old thing.
Yeah.
So I felt a little off. I'm feeling weird. Don't know what's going on. Let me pick up the violin, and literally I was able to rebalance myself.
And you can feel the confidence around you. Not only can you feel it, but it's contagious. I think a lot of people, some people in the room that typically, even when we're out in the open, I kind of see a little, it's like some people perk up when you came in the room. So like it is felt. So I do want you to know that it's not just in you, but it's on you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So at what point did you know you wanted to add author to that list?
Actually, so I knew that I was going to be an author in elementary school.
Wow.
We were reading Cheryl Silverstein, I think, the poem book. Cheryl Silverstein.
Yeah, I went to 5 elementary schools. I can barely remember anything I did.
There. But yeah, so I think it was Cheryl Silverstein. But we were reading that book, and I was like, I could do that.
Right.
I love poems. I used to write all the time. I was like, I would love to do something like that. And then I always say that like one of my spirit angels or guides came to me and were like, you'll be you'll be an author one day. And I was like, okay. Never told anybody. I remember one time I was telling my dad about it. He was like, so when did this come about? Same kind of question. I was like, Daddy, when I was younger, I thought about this. He was like, well, why didn't you tell us? I was like, because if I would have told him, they probably would have had me writing books back then, honestly.
Absolutely.
And there was a few things that I didn't speak on that I'm doing now. Amongst them is publishing, amongst them is acting, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew very young. It came literally, I want to say a voice said to me, this is what you're going to be doing. And it said several other things as well.
I believe
which
that.
I have already done and continuing to do. But yeah, that is
so
what happened.
Was there any, like, because I know you didn't say anything to your parents, but did you ever like write a small book or write anything that nobody ever knew about?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Do you remember your first one?
So I used to write like poem books. So it started with the Cheryl Silverstein.
Got you.
And it was before that moment, but I'd already been doing it. So I was like, oh, I could do this. And I remember there were books that I can't remember what it was, but that had pseudonyms. And I was like, oh, one day I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to just write a book, do a little tell-all, and not write my real name on the book.
Right.
And, so.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So, I feel like, in a journey, especially because you saying like, I didn't tell anybody, like I knew inside of me, but you still kind of was honing your craft. Along that journey, you kind of learn what type of, whether you're a writer or whether I'm a photographer or whatever the case may be, you kind of learn what type you are. So when you think of yourself as a writer, what type of writer would you say that you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I write all the time. So even though I'm publishing certain books, I'm constantly writing thoughts that come to my mind. I'm writing ideas. I'm in school to be a researcher, so like I'm a writer of many sorts. My favorite type of writing, I don't know why I can't say a favorite either, because it depends on my mood. Yeah, that's just how I am.
But what was the one you were gonna say just for?
Girl, I was gonna say children's books, but then I really enjoy research.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
And we're going to dive into that because you put some research into this book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything I do. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Let's talk about Savannah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know she was inspired by one of your previous second grade students. Mm-hmm. Let's paint that picture for the audience. What was that interaction like with your student to be able to now create Savannah?
Yeah. So it was actually a group, all of my students. So when I was teaching in St. Louis, I was teaching second grade, and basically teachers have to meet these, I would say quotas, it's not really quotas, but like it's damn near quota, of how the students need to be, how much they need to grow and master over a course of a semester. And so by the first semester, my students had grown and mastered 2 and 3 grade levels.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally at the end of the semester, we'd had a little party. Their parents came. We were on the carpet. I was like, show your parents all the growth and mastering. And they were like, oh,
can you be my teacher?
Right. No, we had a great time. But after the party, we were sitting around. I was like, so we've done basically everything we need to do for the second grade, semester, and some of you all have gone above that and are now in 5th, 6th grade. What do y'all want to learn about? Because there are things that we don't talk about in school. Is there anything that you all want to talk about that we don't discuss? And they tossed around a few ideas. I was like, well, just think about it and let me know. And one of the students came to me because I kind of had like a Montessori type classroom set up. They would come into the classroom and they would tell me what they were working on because they knew what their goals were. So I was like, what are you working on today? So one of the students came up and I was like, so what are you working on? And she said, I'm working on money. And I was like, oh, good. You've been working on that for a little bit. And she's like, yeah, but man, Miss Addison, let me tell you. My sister lost her job last night because she couldn't count the money in the register. So I'm about to go learn this money for real because I'm not trying to lose my job. I was like,
wow.
That part, yeah, don't. Right. And then she went down to go sit and talk with somebody. I was like, well, make sure you use your resources. Like, who in the classroom already knows it? So she went and did her thing. And then I sat there and I was like, dang, if she couldn't count the money, we haven't even got to the point of, like, how to use the money. Like, forget investing it. Forget, like, real estate. You know what I mean? Like, we can't even talk about all the other ways in which money can be used if we're not counting it. So, so at that point, I was like, you know what? I was like, so I could stop the class. I was like, y'all want to learn about money? Immediately. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, I love money. Oh, it's like my money. I was like, okay, cool, calm down, relax. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, y'all go to recess, and I'm gonna like look up some stuff and figure out what I can figure out. I go on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm like looking up all these different things to try and figure out how can I teach these kids about money because this is what they're excited about.
Yeah.
And as I was looking through resources, I want to paint the picture as if there weren't resources. There were resources that existed. I just didn't feel like the things that I wanted to teach them were in the books that existed. They were like books with animals, and I was like, I want them to see real people. Right. I wanted this to be representative for them. And also because I was reading books to children every single day, I wanted comprehension questions in the book. Like a lot of my students, I was sending home books with them over the course of just my teaching career, and the parents would always be like, Miss Addison, they just read the whole thing, but they don't know what they just read. So I was like, that's comprehension. So we need to make sure we definitely have comprehension questions in there. And then eventually I just was like, you know what? Fuck it. Oh, excuse me.
That's right.
I was like, you know what? Oh, I mean,
bump it. Look, we're here now.
That's definitely what the thought process was. It was like, I'm just going to write a book myself and include all of the things that I want to be in there. And I was almost out of the door with teaching. I had just gotten elected like in April. So this may have been around like, you know what? It must have been around May. It was probably around May because yeah. No, you know what? Timeline going back. I hadn't been elected yet because this was like still the first semester. So it was before I got elected.
And this was elected to be on the board.
Yeah, the school board.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and create this content for them, and they helped me throughout the process. Sometimes I was like, as I was writing, I was like, what does this sound like? What do you think?
And this is questions you're asking the students.
Mm-hmm, yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, throughout the whole process, I was asking the students, my coworkers. I was asking financial experts because I wanted to make sure that the book was something that was interesting for the kids, but also that if someone was, reading it as a professional, they could feel like I can stand behind this book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, even the whole time I had to think about what my vision for it was going to be, like beyond the fact that I wanted my students in this classroom to know about this. What about if banks bought this? What about if libraries had it? Like I started to think larger about what the potential for the book, and then obviously like a series could be of books that were representatives of children teaching financial literacy.
Now, we're going to dive into the book, but I do want to take a moment because teachers are so imperative. Like, I know I made a joke, like, could you be my teacher? But that's such a serious thing because I feel like teachers play a huge role in our youth. Like it plays a huge role in our society because almost not everybody, some people have like homeschool and parents teach, but a lot of people go through the school system and they have these interactions, and most time kids are at school for most of their days. So one, thank you for your service, for being able to do it different. Because I don't from, looking up you and old interviews, your relationships with your students, even you being able to say, hey, I want to give you new material. Let me ask you, there has to be a relationship.
Yeah.
You're not just my student. I'm not just your teacher. We're creating a bond.
Oh, you're making me cry because it was so much like that. And I had this video recently that I put on TikTok, and one of my students found me, and she was like, I think this is my teacher, Miss Addison. And she was like, you're still my favorite teacher to this day. And I think she may be going into high school, middle school, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it must have been. I think it might be high school. Child, I cannot believe it, but
it plays a huge role. I can remember, even though I've been to 5 elementaries, I can pinpoint teachers that actually took that extra step.
Oh yeah.
So why was it so important for you to take that extra step? Because being a teacher can be difficult as it is, especially if resources aren't there. But why was it so important for you to take that extra step with those relationships?
So first of all, I just left college and went straight into the classroom. And so I didn't get my undergrad in teaching. My undergrad was in communication science disorder, and I did Teach for America. So my route to getting to teaching was already different, and I was intentional about the decision as to why I was going into the classroom. I found out a lot in college about the Black community, and I was upset. I was like, what do you mean?
Right.
What is happening? And like I said, contrast to my upbringing, which was full of love, which was full of education. I came from a family of educators, my grandparents, and even my great-grandparents had their master's degree and were teachers and professors. And so I thought everybody went to college. I did not know this wasn't a thing. So the blindfolds were off, child. I was like, I can see, and what I see, I don't like. So I hate those people who are like, what I see, I don't like, and I'm just going to sit here and talk about what I don't like.
Right.
It's like, well, do you want to pick up a shovel and help, or you just going to sit there and complain? Because we don't have time.
Yeah.
So I was destined to not be one of those people, or determined not to be one of those people. And so when I got into the classroom, it was important for me to not have a I'm doing this to you or for you mentality. We're doing this together. Who are you? Let me tell you who I am. When some of those parents first saw me, because I was teaching first grade originally, they were looking around who is the teacher? Because you think I look young now.
Right. Back then,
I was 22.
Baby.
They were like, who is it? The kids were like, you look like my TT. It's that's cool.
Kind of cool.
I can be your TT. And then literally I had one of the parents was like, now listen. You sure you can do this?
You got this?
And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna love them.
And let me throw, teaching first graders is not easy.
Well, it was fine.
For some people. For what I'm saying, for the average Joe, because I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and I did teachers cadet for kindergarten and first grade, and trying to teach them to count money.
Kindergarten, now pre-K and kindergarten. Pre-K.
Out of the way.
I tried to do pre-K, and I was like, child, I need to start cleaning up after myself, because what is happening in this place? Where am I? But first grade, it was cool because I had just gotten back from China a few years ago, and I was with third and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and I'd seen what they were doing. Mm-hmm. So I understood that the education system in America was behind.
Right. And
I saw how the students were being treated in the schools, and the bar was very low. Mm-hmm. And so I even had a straightforward conversation with my students, and I wonder if any of them still remember, but I was like, listen, there are children in China who are 3 and 4 years old who are doing 3-digit and 4-digit addition and subtraction, doing multiplication, and y'all are talking about not being able to do what we're doing right now.
Right, very basic.
And I was like, and here you're distracted. I turned on a YouTube video. I was like, look at this classroom on YouTube. Now look at what we got going on in here. Where do you think the learning is happening?
Right. Yeah.
Next, after that, we were rolling.
Yeah.
We were doing great.
It's so important for people to travel to see that though.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes we get so stuck in our worlds and it's just here. But to be able to broaden their horizon and say, hey, here's an example, not just me saying it, but I'm going to show it to you as well.
And it was just very important for me for us, not even for me, for us to be on the same page. I would ask the parents, what is it that you have? What is your vision for your child? What are your goals? And I would ask the students, what are your goals? I'm here to help you do those things. And then when they would make choices, because I would tell them, those are the choices that you're making.
Yeah.
so that you can get to wherever you need to go. So if you're making choices so that you can get to your goals, great. But I'm going to also remind you if you're making choices that aren't, and then you can choose to like keep going down that path or not.
Right. But I'm going to hold you accountable.
I'm definitely holding you accountable. And one of the things that we had to do, because when I was teaching, we were starting to talk about social and emotional awareness as well.
Right.
And so I'm like, you also have to be responsible. You have to be responsible for a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
For communicating your emotions, for how you are socially interacting with other people. And so we're setting those foundations right now. And I need you to be aware of what they're wanting you to do.
Absolutely.
Like, this is not a game. We're not in pre-K anymore.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell, like, if we can just duplicate you, like, can we just get a whole bunch of Chelseas?
We don't need a whole bunch of me. There are so many amazing educators.
There are. I know a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, we could have like there could be a few of me, you know, but because I'm not gonna say no to it. But the great thing about being an educator who makes an impact is the uniqueness that person brings.
Absolutely.
You know, and so absolutely some of the I would stay up night after night trying to figure out what is the next new thing that I can innovate to take back into the classroom for my students.
Right.
If there was a student who was having self-esteem problems, I was like, how can I get in self-esteem impacted testing? So I'm
Absolutely.
like, you don't think you're beautiful, which is why you're not taking this test.
Absolutely.
Which baffled me, but then I realized I had to be self-reflective on myself, and I was like, dang. There have been times when I haven't felt ready because I haven't felt pretty. So, Of course you do. And you don't even have the words to figure out what's going on right now. So,
exactly.
It was very important to me, like I said, to build relationships with them, to be my authentic self, and not just with the students, but with the parents as well.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
bring everything that I could into that space and, make sure that at the end of the day, they had all of me.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if they had all of me, I knew that I was doing everything that I could to make it happen. And that's what happened too. So
I could literally talk to you all day. But I do want to touch on a few things before we wrap up, because I know we're getting to the end here. Now, for the book, you also took the liberty to do some research of the psyche of money and how our environment impacts that, which a lot of people may not dive into, but you actually took it a step further. And as you say, you're a big researcher. One thing I've learned about you just, in our contacts along the way. So what inspired you to not only unpack that, but to also incorporate it in your book so that it can be received from anybody that purchases your book?
So my mom's an accountant, and I have a lot of people in my family who are in the financial space. And so what felt natural to me, because I just had known it for so long, I understood wasn't for other people. So it was important for me not only to like infuse some of the things that I just had picked up along the way from my family, but also go a step further and really make sure, also verify what I'd been taught, because maybe I'd been taught some things that weren't true. But also just due diligence and adding in anything else that may have been missed that I'm sure my parents tried to teach me, but I wasn't in the headspace to learn about. It was also important to me because I was coming out of the classroom to like look at the standards of what was expected of children at the time. So depending on their developmental state and their age, there are financial lessons that people typically try to teach. So people have already done the research on that. It's just a matter of me sifting through that and putting it into a way that was palatable for my audience.
Yeah.
And so that was really important. And like I said, if I was going to be trying to get into banks, if I was going to be trying to get, really big dollars, I needed to do the due diligence to make sure people knew this is where this is coming from. And even when I partnered with Georgia Zone, I had to write out, where the backing behind, like, what standards are aligned to this book. And it's helped me be able to market the book better because it's backed by real financial knowledge and real research. And that was just important to me for like the kids to really have something that was tangible for them.
Yeah.
That they could feel like they really knew something about the world beyond, the animals and the fluffy pictures that people try. And I'm like, why are y'all constantly trying to lower the bar for them? Like,
right. Like
give them the real. They can handle it.
And the thing too is like they get a lot from the book, but I think what you're also doing in that information that you just gave too is providing a blueprint for those that are up and coming, to not just, oh, hey, I'm just gonna, and of course, like you can write your book just to write your book, but when you really do the research and really do the back end of it, you can have those partnerships that then help you market your book better.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Savannah's Savings Jar just a little bit before we head out. If anybody is wondering like what it's about, what would you say it's about and what they would get from it?
Yeah, so it's about a little girl who learns a lesson. It's very important for me to, in each of the books within the series as well, for the child to learn a lesson about whatever that financial topic is. So in this book, it's about saving. But it goes further than saving because we also talk about entrepreneurship. She starts a business, but she also has a friend named Spending Spencer who,
I love that name when I read it, by the way.
And he's got a book coming out too. But who isn't the great influence, and we have those friends who, and we have that, we're that person ourselves sometimes. Absolutely. We have a Spending Spencer in our minds. We can be Spending Spencer. But so it's also about like, who do you surround yourself with and how can your environment also impact your finances subliminally? And through the lessons that she learns about not like spending wisely and saving at least 25% of her money, how she can have a successful business. And we also talk a little bit about return on investment because she has a friend named Money Marvin, which is actually based off of a friend of mine named Marvin who is heavy in the finance space.
Yeah.
And so it was really about trying to pull together all these pieces for her to understand this lesson of finances, and starting off with saving, because as important as investing is, as important as not spending your money is, as important as donating and sharing your money, you got to have some money first.
Absolutely.
So, and I really struggle between, am I going to do investing first or saving first? Because investing, that's how you multiply that money.
Correct.
But
generational
wealth.
But
if you don't have any money, because you keep spending the money, then we can't do it like that. So it's important for me to like just have everybody be on the same page of like saving first, and then launch pad to the other.
Yeah, and it's
topics.
An amazing book. I bought these books for all my goddaughters. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, girl, I got it. Like, I got to get these books. And I did. But I do want to close out because I know we're coming to the end now. I know you published your book actually through your own media company. Yep. So I want you to, of course, give out your information of how people can follow you, get in contact, because you're actually in the position to help others as well. Yep. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So Adwin Publishing and Media is the publishing and media company that I publish my book through. It is a family publishing company. Addison is my last name. Goodwin is my mom's maiden last name. So I took Adwin and put that together.
I love it.
And so through Adwin, yes, we publish books, but also working on the media side as well. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all that,
Yeah.
And so you can follow me. My personal Instagram is at Chelsea Sarae, CHELSEA And my email for Adwin is ADDWIN, P as in publishing, M as in media, @gmail.com.
Absolutely. And don't forget to pick up Savannah's Saving Jar. It is not only a book for just kids, but it also gives you the opportunity to teach kids as well, have that conversation. It can be uncomfortable sometimes, but I think you did a great job of giving a guide that's pretty easy. And I know we could literally talk forever and ever, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Again, thank you so much, Chelsea, for joining me.
Thank you for having me in this conversation. It was great. Much needed.
Absolutely. I'm excited. You guys make sure to follow her. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. We'd like to thank our amazing speakers and panelists for taking the time to be a part of this conversation, along with Auburn Avenue Library and our sponsors. We have Kindle Direct Publishing, Harlequin, Enneagram Spark, the Atlanta Writers Club, Libro FM, and we also, where we are at this co-working space.
Phenomenal.
Constellation, it like literally is amazing. I wish you guys could see this, but you can check them out as well. And for supporting our efforts to amplify our stories, make sure to follow the festival on social media at Black Writers Weekend and tag us on your posts using the hashtag Black Writers Weekend. Again, I am your host, Symphony Thompson, here with Miss Chelsea Sarae, and you guys make sure to get Savannah's Saving Jar.
Yeah, get